Hello and welcome to Hixxy Studio. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make this card using this die set from Elizabeth Craft Designs. It's called Garden Scene and it's one of two videos that I've made using this die, so pop onto the other one because the other is quite different with an inky background and using the dies in a slightly different way. Okay, so we have two dies. We have the main die here, which cuts out all the detail. If you use this on your own, it will just cut into, so you could use a bigger piece of card, cut into it, put something behind. If you use it in conjunction with this die, then you cut out this with a border, and that's probably the most common use. That's how I used it with the inky background. This on its own will produce a nice matte because this inner bit doesn't cut, so you get a nice sort of solid matte. So you could use that. What we're going to do is to use them in a slightly different way, because I wanted the this cut with one paper, a border with another paper on a background of yet another paper. So it's not particularly tricky. It's just a case of sorting out the bits and pieces. So I've got my base card. I've got my piece to go over, and in fact I'm going to stick that on now so that will be dry. I cut it slightly bigger than my card so that I can then go around and trim it. If you're anything like me, if you try to cut something to size, then 9 times out of 10 it won't be the right size. So I'm going to put the glue on the card rather than on the piece of paper, because obviously I don't want the edges. Now at home, take a bit more time and get the glue sort of close to the edge, because what you don't want is the paper sort of rising up at the sides and the corners. And then this is a double-sided paper, but I want that plain. It's really pretty blueberry design, but I want that plain on the other. So I'm going to stick this on, make sure it's on. Put that down the right way, so with me to make sure. Right, so that's okay there. And then I'm just gonna get my scissors and I'm going to trim, try not to trim the card as well, along here, using the edge of the card to butt up against, and then the same here. I'm going to open the card out and then use the edge to trim down. Okay, that's my base layer, and so now I need to sort out the two other layers. So this is the paper that I'm going to use for this die, and then this is the paper, sorry, that I want to cut just a border out of. Okay, so what I want to do is to tape them both down, but then I need to draw some lines to allow me to cut them out in the way that I want to, rather than with the dies. So I'm going to get a few pieces of tape, and on this one to start with, excuse me, I'm going to put the tape in the middle so that that's secure. And then I'm just going to get my ruler and I am just going to go, I'd say about 1/8 of an inch around. If I turn my ruler over that way, it's easier for me. So I'm basically putting my ruler against the edge, not my ruler against the edge of the die, that's wrong. I'm putting, this is the edge of the die, and I'm putting my sort of 1/8 line against there, and then I'm just going to draw a line on the paper. Okay, and then the same here. Just draw a line on the paper. You don't want it too wide, because remember this has got to go round, and you don't really want it sticking out over the edge of that. So 1/8 of an inch I think is just about right. Okay. Now I might in a moment I might just put that through the guillotine and cut that. Or I might leave it, I don't know, I haven't made my mind up. So this die, what I want to do, I want to get my cutting mat so that it's on the cutting mat. I'm going to cut them separately because this time what I want to do is to tape on the outside. Need a little bit more tape. So, and with my pencil, I'm going to run around the inside of this die, and then I will be cutting that with a craft knife, or if you've got one of those trimmers that you can cut in the middle of things, then that would be perfect. Let's run this through. Doesn't need much pressure because essentially it is just a basic shape die. I'll send that through. I'm just going to bring up my guillotine and I'm going to trim off these pieces. So that's gone through the guillotine. I'll grab that in a moment. I'm going to just shuffle that a little bit. There. And then here. And then yeah. And if necessary, I can rub out any pencil lines that are showing. Oops. So I'm just struggling. Got plaster on my fingers. It's just struggling to. I want it right. Okay, so let's bring this one over and check that that's cut. Well, didn't quite cut in the corner there. It might be just the way I'd laid that on the plate because everything else is cut beautifully. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip off the bit that's cut. It is not that there's anything wrong with that piece of the part of the die. It's purely the way it was placed on the plate so that the pressure it needed was not enough in that corner. So what I'm going to do is place it there and we'll run that back through. The only issue that I run with doing with that is that I've not quite got that die back in properly and it might just have a little bit of a trim somewhere else, but we'll see. Yeah, see what I mean? That's what happens sometimes if you try and do that and it goes back in the wrong place. That said, it hasn't really affected the overall look of that, so I'm quite happy with that. And then we're going to run this one through, and I'm going to try this one without the additional pressure to begin with, and we'll see how we go. Because it is paper, not card, that I am trying to cut through, but it is an intricate die, so you kind of have to see how that will go. I'm just trying to find my okay, so turn this over. That's quite a busy thing on the back. And let's see. Some, most, but not all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first of all try turning it. Okay, so I've turned it. I'm going to put my plate on there. I've got a little bit of a bowing plate, but we're going to try it that way. We'll go that way. Having turned the die, we'll see if that's managed to catch the bits that hadn't. And if not, then we can just stick it through with a little bit more pressure. Because I've got such a busy pattern, it is not that easy to see, but I think we've got it all that time. Yeah. Let's fingers crossed that I'm right. Right, so let's take the tape off and we will see how we've done. Like so. Oh, that's come off. Just bear with me. Have I got any more on there now? I think that might be it. Okay, so let's see that there are lots of fine little bits on this, so it's worth just taking a little bit of time. Ooh, I might have found a little area where it's not cut. I got a little area. Oh no, I take it back. I think we're good. Let's just keep going. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my and just poke it and see. It's all looking good. It's all looking good. But I am just going carefully because the last thing I want to do is to tear anything. So you can see there's lots of bits. That makes sense. There's lots of quite fragile but quite delicate pieces that we don't want to just rip out of the die. Okay, so there we go. There it is. Now I've got to remove that inner bit. And again, just take your time with this because they are caught on lots of little fine pieces that you don't want to tear. Take your time with it, she says. Ease things out, use your poker tool like I am. Just so I'm pushing the die cut down and lifting the waist up, and then I drop it. Hopefully then we will be getting somewhere. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop that little bit off so that I'm now concentrating on this bit. I am making this look a little bit trickier than it is. I just don't want to rip any of this really fine. There we go. Any of the really fine, because you see they're all twisting here. You just need to be a little bit careful when you're removing it. Okay, right. So I'm just going to try and see if these will poke out. I'm being careful because what I don't want to do by trying to poke those out is to rip the paper. So I think this was a little bit that I wasn't sure that I'd cut just now. I just want to take my time and put these little bits out. Ooh. So what have I still got to do? A couple in there. No. Oh, and that flower. I haven't done any of that flower. Let's see. Right, so that flower looks like those little bits haven't quite cut through enough. They're sort of there, but not quite. So if I had been able to pick that up better in terms of, the fact that my back was such a busy pattern, then you could run that through again with just a small shim over the top of those little problematic areas, rather than, because everything else is cut out. It didn't need the magnetic shim. So a little piece of paper, a little square of card in that area would just help to get that through. But I'm not gonna worry about it. It's not gonna take away too much from the whole thing. So that's ready for our card, like so. And then the last thing now is I say the last thing to prep is this. Okay. And that is we need to cut this. Now I know that on my cutting rulers are getting a little bit old and not necessarily particularly straight. And that happens because the knife slips, you cut into it, you nick it. It is just wear and tear. Now, the other thing, on this ruler, I've got this grip. So you saw the thing start to move, and I thought, right, okay, if I turn it this way, then that little bit will now prevent this from moving. The only thing I'd say is that where possible, I prefer to cut on the side of the waist, because if I slip, then it's just into the waist and it's not a big deal. If you slip, famous last words, I probably will now. If you slip when cutting around like this, then you cut into the bit that you're wanting to keep. So just be careful. I haven't gone down far enough for that. Okay, so that's besides, we've got a little bit caught in the corner there as well. There. And I will go around with my rubber in a minute, just get rid of the little lines that I've got left. Now I know this does seem like a faff, but it actually allows you to use this die set in another way, other than sort of the particular ways in which we tend to use these cut in, cut out type dies that create a whole card in one go. It's just really this bit that I wanted to use as a border around with a different colour. Now, a different way of doing it would have been to cut a square of this colour and stick it onto a mat of this colour. That is, that's a completely other way of doing it. Nothing wrong with any of them. I just want this to be a frame rather than at the front, rather than a mat sat at the back. I hope that makes sense, because this is going to sit on top of this rather than behind it. So it's just another way of doing it. So I'm just going to go around and erase my pencil line. All the way around, like so. And then we can put this together. So yeah, I'm going to get a piece of paper because we need to put glue on this, and there's lots of little fine bits, and I don't really want to be gluing on my table. So on the larger bits, like the edge, like so, and then where else? On these fence posts, I can use my thicker my glue from my larger nozzle, if that's the right word. So some bits that are fine for that, some of these branches like here. However, once you get onto the smaller pieces, you really want a fine tip, which I've got here. Okay, let's make sure that's working. There we go. Right, so just going to bring it out onto the branches. So, like so. Oh, looks like I've got a little bit of a bit that's dragging out there. So, like so. Okay. And down here. This is probably the most, in a way, the most time-consuming bit. It's getting all your glue. Now, there are other ways to do this. You could actually put it onto double-sided adhesive before you actually cut it out. You could use a spray glue all the way over the back. Whichever is your kind of method of preference. There's going to be bits I'm going to find in a minute where I put no glue whatsoever. But hey, we'll see. Oh, did I? Yes, I did go up there. So, I'll glue the card, and we're going to center that. So, and I'm going to use paper, put it over the top, and then press down. So, oh, there you go. I'm finding the bits I put no glue on. That'll be these two flowers. And a bit there. There we go. Oh, that flower as well. See, I told you I'd find all the bits I hadn't put any glue on whatsoever, because they have a tendency to stick up. But that's okay. We'll go with that. Now, the next bit is to put the frame on. So I'm going to, in fact, I might use the bigger glue for that. I think it will take it. And so we're going to go all the way around this frame. Well, I'm going to stick it at the back of my card at that rate. All the way around. Like, oh, have I gone all the way around? There we go. I think I've gone all the way around that. Oh, it's sticking to me. So, as I said, the way I've done this makes this now a frame rather than like a mat or a layer at the back. So it's just a case of wiggling it a little bit to sit on top of the one underneath. Like I say, you could, the alternative way of doing it is to cut a piece of the back one and stick the detail one to that, and then have this as a mat at the back. But as I said, I wanted it as a frame at the front. So just to finish it off, we've got a little happy birthday sentiment. The sentiment is from Julie Hickey, Everyday Sentiment stamp, and a little bow up at the top to finish it off. There we go. So that is one way, a slightly different way of using this die set from Elizabeth Craft Design, this garden scene that comes in these two parts. Have a look on the channel, because we have another video using this die where I've cut these both together, and made a really lovely inky background to go behind it. Another really quick and simple card, but beautiful because this die is just stunning. Thank you for joining me.